Hello. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So we will discuss about RedisAI today. I'm Jayesh Aive. I work as a research assistant at Stanford AI Lab. I work on distributed neural computers. And when we talk about distributed neural computers or computing, then Redis is one of the solutions we are trying to use in our daily projects. So before we go ahead with a lot of theoretical parts, I will just give you one cool demo, and maybe you guys can, it's an interactive, so you guys can also try the same thing. Okay, it's visible. So we have set up a RedisAI at the backend, and we have Twilio APIs working in the front. We are using WhatsApp Sandbox. So what it does is whenever the new image comes in, so it will send it to the Redis AI call. It will process in the backend using TensorFlow. It will create a label, and you can get a label in the message. So it's an auto labeling service using WhatsApp. So if you guys want to try this, I will just run you through some instructions, and probably during the talk you can try. No, listen to talk first and then try. So, so you can take out your mobile phones, go on WhatsApp. This is the number for that sandbox. It's +1 415 523 888 so when you are on that number, just message join hidden city and you will be in the sandbox. Okay, it's just working. Done? Yes. So you will message join hidden city on that particular sandbox and you are in it. Afterwards, you just have to send a photo and it will get you labels. But it's running a Flash server right on my machine, so I don't know how scalable it is and if it can handle these many requests. But yes, if some of you can get the labels, just raise your hand. Join hidden city. Oh. So guys, I will make it a public endpoint and you guys can try. We can share the slides later with you. We will just hop on to the next slides. If anyone got it running, just raise a hand in between and let's see. So isn't this cool? So how many of you find this very cool? Okay, some of you. So that's fine. So if I tell you that this is just a few lines of script running in the backend, like the 10, 15 lines of the Redis AI code and 5 or 10 lines of the Twilio API, so will you believe it? So this is a very basic use case which can build using Redis AI very simply, and this can lead to a very good application. So one of which I'm working on is a fake news detection service. So you can just send a link on the WhatsApp and you can get if it's a fake news or not. So it can lead to many applications. So going ahead, how many of you do like machine learning deployments in production? Okay, a few guys are there, some are here, fine. Basically for the doing machine learning deployments in production, you might use any of these services. You might use a Flask wrapper or Django wrapper. You might go for like any cloud provider, like AWS provides SageMaker as a service, Google Cloud Platform as Google AI Platform. Then there are similar offerings by Azure as well. Or either you can go for runtime, you can go for TensorFlow serving, Clipper, then NVIDIA TensorRT, MXNet model server. You can create your own solutions. You can write a C++ or C wrapper and create the solution. Otherwise, the next big thing, Kubernetes. So everyone loves it, and you can go ahead, deploy your model in the Kubernetes and work on it. So there's a model server architecture. At the end, you will just you have to work with the REST API. You will just send your request, and the model will work on it and give you a result. So what are the requirements we have when we want to go into production? So it must fit your technology stack. It must fit your strategies. So you don't want to be a Gregor here. Not just about languages, but about semantics, scalability, and guarantees. It should run anywhere. It should run on any size of the data. it should be composable of the building blocks. So it should be like easily editable. You can modify it very easily. It must not try to limit the amount of the, you must try to limit the amount of the moving parts and the amount of the moving data as well. It must use the resources in the best optimized way. So these are some of the requirements we have for production. And RedisAI helps you to fulfill all those requirements and build a very, very simple solution. So by this, I will hand it over to Shiveen, who will guide you through what is RedisAI, how it works, and how simple it is to build applications using RedisAI. So hand it over to Shiveen. Yep. Sure.
Thank you, Jayesh. Hello, am I audible? All right. Jayesh had worked quite a lot to set up that demo. So it's a shame if you guys, can't try it out. So I'll try to wrap the presentation soon and probably give you guys 1 or 2 minutes at the end of the talk to, try out the demo. Cool. Right. Right. So this is me, Sharon Thomas. I work as a developer at TensorWork. So TensorWork and Redis Labs building the RedisAI together to make what we believe was the most easiest deep learning runtime solutions that could compete with any existing solution exists right now. Right, so for those of you who haven't heard about RedisAI, this is RedisAI. Before jumping into the slide, how many of you have done anything related to deep learning or machine learning? Come on, you're going to go out of your job if you don't do anything in. No, this is it? Okay, so cool. RedisAI is the machine learning / deep learning runtime server, or an inference server, you could call it. So we know Redis as a data storage, or most of the people know Redis as a cache mechanism, right? So with the introduction of extensible module, you can now build modules that could extend Redis to do things like this. So RedisAI is essentially a module that is doing essentially 3 things, or mainly 3 things. The first and the foremost, the most important thing is introducing tensors as a data type. The second thing, okay, so if you don't know what a tensor is, it's a multi-dimensional array. So if you are, let's say, doing an image processing, the image is going to be a 3-dimensional array. Right, so things like that. Second thing, the RedisAI introduces a deep learning model execution on CPUs or GPU. So it's not a data storage anymore. You can run your models on Redis using RedisAI. The last, the major important thing that RedisAI introduces is something called script. So we rely on Torch script. It essentially gives you the ability to write Python script, Python program itself, but it lets you run that program on a highly efficient C++ runtime. So we take your Python program, it's a subset of the Python language itself. We take that Python program, we put that into a C++ runtime using Torch script, and we give you the the speed, the efficiency that you probably won't get from Python itself. Right. Moving on, this is a pictorial representation of the same thing. So it's introducing a new data type, tensor. Then right now, RedisAI works with 4 different backends: PyTorch, TensorFlow, TensorFlow Lite, and ONNX. With ONNX, now that's the beauty of ONNX. Microsoft introduces this thing called ONNX runtime. With that, you can essentially take a model that's built with scikit-learn or Apache, Spark, or XGBoost, and convert it to ONNX model and deploy that to RedisAI. So RedisAI is not necessarily a deep learning runtime engine. It could take your traditional machine learning models as well. It could run your models on CPU or GPU. If you have GPUs available, you don't have to worry about taking care of the complications that you might have to go through if you want to run your model on GPU. It could work with all the replications or scaling mechanism Redis has available, like master replica or clustering. Okay, so this is the example of Torch script. So if you could see that function, that's a addition plus squaring function that's written in Python, but that's going to run in a C++ runtime. Right, where to get it? So RedisAI.io, that's a website that you could go and read about the module and probably go through the documentation. GitHub link, but if you want to run the Docker instance, you could get the Docker instance from the container from the Docker Hub at RedisAI/RedisAI. Right, so I'm going to introduce you to the few very minimal APIs that you have available, which is good enough for you to do completely fully fledged deep learning deployment. Let's start with model, right? Model is the most important part. So the people who doesn't know how the deep learning system works, so you have a model, which is the, let's call it as, you probably have heard about this neural network thing. So that's a model, right? Then you pass an input to the model, you get an output, and you need a system to serve it to the world, to your users. So you host your model in RedisAI using ai.modelset command. This is the native CLI command of Redis. We have custom clients built for different languages, but let's run with the native CLI. So ai.modelset is the command. The second word is the key, a Redis key. I call the key as model. Third word is where you mention what is the backend. You are telling Redis that T of TensorFlow is my backend. Then the fourth word is the device. You can specify CPU or GPU 0, GPU 1, how many GPUs you have, specify that with the number. Then you don't really need the last lines. You don't need to know about those right now. The last part is the mobilenet.pb. That's what essentially Jayesh did when he did the demo. Modelnet.pb is your neural network that freezed as a protobuf file that's been sent to RedisAI as for serving. Right. Okay. So once RedisAI knows the model is on the model key, you can ask RedisAI to run the model. So the model is again the key there, and you're saying input is on another key called foo, and you're saying output is on another key called bar. And how would you take your input and output to? How would you take the input to Redis? That's the next slide. So you have two tensor APIs available, or tensor set and tensor get. So in the previous slide, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Right. So for this model to run, you need to have the inputs foo loaded there, and you are telling RedisAI to take the output. Remember, the tensor goes into the model, and you get the tensor out. You're telling RedisAI to take that tensor out and store that in another key called bar. Right. So tensor set is the command to set that input. So you could pass an array of numbers, or buffer.row, the numpy array itself, and you can specify the data type and the shape. So tensor set, with tensor set, you can set that input on foo, and with tensor get, you can take that. So RedisAI store the output on the key bar, and you use tensor get to take it back. You have 3 different ways you could get it back. Blob is going to give you the byte array. Meta is going to just give you the metadata, not the actual data itself. And final one, values, would give you the values like the first line. It's an array of numbers. Right. So this is commands. You can run it using the clients, JRedis for Java and RedisAI Py for Python. So this is not the other Redis client itself. It's a client for RedisAI specifically, and we are trying to make clients in other language also. Right. Operating RedisAI is essentially similar to how you operate Redis itself and how you load another module, load module to the path of RedisAI. Ecosystem, so I'm going to be part of another talk post-lunch, a deep dive talk. And I'll be showing the another possibly demo or maybe just the slides to run you through how to do a deployment using MLflow and RedisAI. But we are working to make a deployment integration with Kubeflow as well. So if you don't know Kubeflow and MLflow is developed by Databricks, and Kubeflow is developed by Google people. So Kubeflow works with Kubernetes, and MLflow is essentially a lifecycle management tool for deep learning system. Persistence, RDB and AO supported. We essentially serialize tensors, the metadata of tensor and the blob itself. Models are serialized as protocol buffers. Then scripts are serialized as strings. Replication, like I said, you can use master replica cluster. The only caveat with using cluster is the input and output, the tensors has to be in the same node. We are working for a workaround, but this is how you could use it right now. Auto batching, this is a feature that most of the existing AI runtime has. So if there are multiple requests coming in together, running each of them individually is costly. But RedisAI look at the input, and if the input is of the same shape and you're trying to hit on the same model, RedisAI batch it and run it together and give the result back to each individual client automatically. Miscellaneous, dynamic loading of backends. If you have only TensorFlow model, you don't have to load PyTorch backend. Or if you have only PyTorch model, you don't have to load ONNX backend. But if you have multiple backends, you can load them together as well. Monitoring with AI.info, you can connect it to Grafana or other monitoring tool. AI.info will get you the information from RedisAI. Right, roadmap. There are a few things that we are excited about. I think the most excited one, at least for me, is DAG. DAG is direct acyclic graph. So we are going to introduce this thing called atomic volatile keys. So for example, some model executions have intermediate tensors, which you don't really have to write to the Redis database itself. So you can have volatile keys, so that represent as the symbol there, the X with the wings, so because it's volatile, right? So it doesn't touch the key space. So since it doesn't touch the key space, you can essentially run the models on your master replica, because you're not writing to the machine, you're just executing and getting the data back, right? Yeah, this is where I said replicas can execute. You don't, since you're not writing to the system, you can make use of your replicas as well. If you have, so like given in the picture, if you have more than one model running in parallel, RedisAI will understand that and automatically again run your models in parallel without you specifying whether it should run in parallel or not. Async, so if the model take a lot of time, we essentially you can essentially run async. It's something that we are still debating about, but hopefully to see in the future RedisAI releases. Streams, you can connect it to an input stream of data and plug the output to an output stream of data, so then you don't have to do this get or tensor set command. It automatically happens along with the streams. So this is sort of giving you all the information in a nutshell. Ease of deployment. I'll be talking a bit more about all of this in the next deep dive talk. So if you want to know a bit more about any of these features, please come back to the deep dive talk. So ease of deployment, as you see, model deployment just takes one line. You can just do a .model set and you're done. Setting up a RedisAI machine is essentially, again, easy. You can bring up a Docker machine or Redis server load module, just like how you bring up the Redis instance. You can run multiple backend, like TensorFlow, PyTorch, TF-Lite, etc. You can run with multiple devices, CPU, GPU, or multiple GPUs itself. I think one of the most prominent detail is data locality. Since the data is being in your Redis itself, you are not going to pay the pay for the network transfer. So that's a super critical thing. We have done a benchmark that shows how this is really affecting your costing. Again, I'm going to show the result of that benchmark in the post-lunch session. High performance, the benchmark is going to show how performance-wise, how good is Redis AI. High availability with Sentinel and clustering. Language independent, since Redis has got clients in almost all the languages, you don't have to worry about what language you're using in the production. Run everywhere where Redis runs. So we have examples in the example repo if you want to take a look, please. So this is me and Jayesh. So we will be tweeting the slides or more detail about Redis AI after the conversation. So if you want to get that, you can go to our account. So I'll give you 1 more minute just to run that demo.
We will also post a demo after that. So we will post on GitHub.
Right. So we will also host this demo in a GitHub link. So if you want to run it in your free time, you can download it and set up a Twilio server and run it. So come on. Okay, here is the number. We'll give you like 20 seconds to take down the number. Your time starts now.
Anyways, we will provide a public URL where you can go and directly post a message on Twitter, and then you can get this demo running at your home as well. Won't be an issue.
Right. Can I change the slide? Yes. Thank you. This is the message that you should send. Join space hidden -city.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's essentially, so what he's saying is he got the response back. It's essentially not what exactly he expected. That's essentially the model predicting it wrong. But what we are trying to show is, how Redis AI could, how easy to set it up, right? Right.
So it's just a default model. We haven't retrained it for any specific images, so it might give you the results like that only. But if you want to retrain that model for your specific use cases, you can do that, and it will be working fine for that as well. So it's a general mobile net model. So.
But you probably don't get the correct answer. That's it.
Yes.
So if you are passing your space shuttle, we don't have trained it with we haven't trained it with the space shuttle. No, like I'm just saying, like, yeah. All right, that's all about from us. Do we have time to take questions?
No.
I'm sorry. So we don't have time to take questions. We'll be around after the session. We'll be around till the evening, so we can catch up. Thank you so much, guys, for coming here and being here. Hope to catch up later.
Great, nice work.